We're going to go ahead and get started. Hi, Sherry. Glad you could join us. So, welcome, you guys. It's fun to see some new faces coming on tonight that haven't gotten to join us for a community call before. We do this, and I'm going to say this in quotes. We do this on the last Monday of the month. However, one of the announcements I need to make tonight is that we are actually going to Greece over the end of the year. And so the last Monday of the month, I will be on an airplane on our way to Athens. It's part missions, part visiting. So anyway, we're going to do it on the 23rd. So it'll be the fourth Monday in December. I know the 23rd is, again, for those of us in this, for all of us, it's like right before the holidays. So again, you may or may not be able to make it. Don't worry about it if you've got stuff going on. It's actually our anniversary that day. We got married 2 days before Christmas because I was teaching. And so it was either get married over Christmas break or wait till summer. And I was like, the church is already decorated. Let's do Christmas break. This is amazing. So anyway, my husband will just kind of have to pause our, whatever we do for an hour for me to do the call, but that's okay. He gets me for the 2 weeks that we're gone overseas. So anyway, so I will make sure there's an announcement inside the community. I'll make sure that the event is has the correct date on it, but the next one will not be the last Monday of the month. It will be on the 23rd. But typically, this call happens on the last Monday of the month. And what we are here to do is to go into the month ahead with intention. Now, back in the day, for any of you who've been an OG or been around for a while, we actually used to do this call on the first Monday of the month. But you know what happened? Often the first Monday of the month was like the second, third, fourth, fifth, even the sixth or seventh day of the month. And it felt like we're already losing some of the month. And so that's how we did it before, because I want to make sure that we have some space and time. We'll get stuff started tonight, right? But we're probably not going to get to everything, especially if your month holds a lot, like a lot of people's do in the month of December. So this is going to give you some time to really think about your time before December 1st hits. But ready or not, it's coming on Sunday. So it is just around the corner. And so that's what we are here to do. But this week is Thanksgiving week here in the States. And I don't know if you heard today's episode. I always love listening back to the episodes because I record them a week or two ahead. And so it's almost like it's like brand new for me. But it's about grateful expectation. And it's really this challenge to go into Thanksgiving and not just Thanksgiving, but the holiday season and really any day of the year with this like tension of I'm grateful for what God has already done and I'm expectant for what he has yet to do. And I think with the right attitude, not like the gimme, gimme, gimme kid, right? Who just is like, thank you for this. Now can I have more? I always laugh because there are several people at our church who have those little tubs of mints. And so as soon as service is over, the kids know what two or three people to go find to get the mints. And it's very much like a gimme, gimme, gimme. And they say thank you, but really they're just about the gimmies, right? They just want more, right? And can I have a second one? And and all that. All right. And so that's not the attitude that we want to go into this with, right? We want to have this focus on who is God and what has he given us because of who he is, right? It's more of a focus on the giver rather than the gift. And so we can be grateful for what it is that he has done and what he has given us and how he has shown up and how he's shown himself faithful over this past year. And at the same time, knowing that he is that same God who will continue to be faithful, who will continue to be with us, who will continue to give us what we need, who will continue to do exceedingly abundantly more than we ask or imagine. I think it's a good thing to have this expectancy about what it is that he's doing. And so I want to encourage you as you go into this week, pop on the episode, what is it, 279, I think was the number. Pop it on while you're working in the kitchen this week or you're dry. I'm going to be mopping floors tomorrow morning. That's a great time to listen to a podcast or head into the grocery store because I did not know my brother and his family were coming. And I did not know I was hosting small group when I went to the grocery store the other day. So I've got to go back again, but that's okay. That's a good time to listen to things, but pop into 79. But I would love for you guys who are on live to pop in the chat something you're grateful for and or something you're expectant for. So something looking back on 2024, something that you're grateful for, and looking ahead to 2025, or even including what's left here of 2024, something that you are expectant about. Because if we're not looking for it, we're probably going to miss it, right? And the story that I share in today's episode is the blind, or not the blind man, the lame man who was sitting by the gates that were going into the temple. And he had been there for 40 years. And he was so focused on his circumstances and his situation and woe is me. I'm sitting here on this mat. I can't go into the temple. I can't do things like other people. He wasn't even looking anymore. And Peter and John, when they came up to him, the first thing they said was, "Look at us." Like, because he kept looking down at his circumstances and he wasn't looking up. And then here's the cool thing: when he looked up, he expected something. Now, he was expecting some money in his hand, right? Did not expect what they were about to do and completely change his life. And in the podcast episode, I talk about the ripple effect that his praise from what happened, like how that built the kingdom. Like there were so many things that happened because one person chose to finally look up and then chose to praise the Lord for what the Lord had done. So I want you to drop in the chat. I think this will be encouragement to all of us, something that you're grateful for and or something that you're expectant about as you're looking ahead. And then head into this week with that like tension between the two, with a little bit of you looking back and saying, wow, and a little bit of you looking ahead and saying, what? And it's just this way that we can be present and then express that to other people. Like, here's the thing, like express it to the Lord, thank him for it. And then also express it to those who you're sharing a table with this week, those who you're in the kitchen working on stuff with this week, because it's going to encourage them to be grateful and to be expectant. And so I hope that's the attitude that we go in with. So with that attitude, I want to pray, and then we will jump into looking ahead at the month ahead. So Lord, we are grateful. God, we can't thank you enough. And I can't get that song out of my head today. We can't thank you enough for who you are and what you do and all that you've seen us through. And so, Lord, I just pray that wherever these women are right now who are here live or listening to the replay, I know there have been a lot of heartaches this year, a lot of disappointments, a lot of missed things and what ifs. And well, I thought that was going to happen and it didn't. And God, yet you are still God in all of it. And I pray that you will open our eyes to see what it is that you have done and who you are, even in the midst of those things. And two, Father, I pray that you'll give us eyes to look ahead at the next month, to look ahead at the next year, and to have expectation for you continuing to be who you say you are and continuing to do what you have promised to do. And God, we don't want to miss it. We want to be present and we want to be paying attention and we want to be part of it, participating with you. And so I pray that even tonight, as we are taking this time to think about our time and to think about the month ahead, Lord, I pray that you will just give us hearts that have grateful expectation and that will change everything about not just our Thanksgiving week, but about also the holidays and Christmas celebrations and the new year and all that it is that you are going to do. And so we give you praise in advance for who you are and what you're going to do. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. All right. Well, before we dive in to what we're working on tonight, I want to make sure that you guys saw there is a Black Friday special going on right now. It's actually going to go through Giving Tuesday because we're going to hit Small Business Saturday, we're going to hit Cyber Monday and Giving Tuesday. And that is what I'm calling the Redeem Her Time Planner Experience. Now, except for Marion, who lives in New Zealand, we already looked up. It was going to cost like over $100 for me to ship this thing to her. So, but hopefully the rest of you are not that so far that it would cost an arm and a leg to get this to you. But with the Redeem Her Time Planner Experience, not only do you get the planner, if you haven't already gotten yours, this is what she looks like. You also get the digital course that goes along with it. That course is worth over $1,000. I was just with my coach last week and she like got the planner in her hand. She's looking at the course. She's like, Lissa, this is amazing. How much is this? But the other thing you get is at checkout through December 3rd, you can add the 2-hour live workshop, which is going to take things to the next level. Because what happens is we get something like this, we get excited, and then what happens? We put it on the shelf, right? Yeah. And it gets buried, right? Things get piled on top of it. There's tinsel on it, there's dust on it, and like things and we have all these great intentions that come January 1st, I'm going to get this out and I'm going to work on my time. And yet what happens? The calendar just keeps filling up and we don't ever really get around to doing some of that work, the deeper thinking work. So we are going to actually get our planners out with pen or pencil in hand, and we are going to start writing in these things together in a workshop. So this is going to be a really huge value for you to really not only get things started, but I'm also going to do a Q&A session at the end, and I will stay on as long as you have questions. Okay, like this is your opportunity to get access and to ask questions in real time around the tools in here, around some of the things that are maybe on your heart. We'll walk through some of the tools together, and then some things I'll just kind of like preview for you to know what's going on. So if you have not gotten your planner yet, let me drop the link to that right now so that you can grab it. Just make sure that you add the workshop at checkout. If you already have a planner, guess what? Good news. You can get access to the live workshop for free if I'm giving you something to do, okay? what you have to do is either write a post or create a video about why you purchased the planner and or how it's already shifting how you approach time. Okay. Some of you have been around Redeemer Time for a while, so you can talk to some of the tools that you're seeing in here. Some of you are brand new. And so it may just be the excitement of it and some things that you heard in a video or a podcast, or maybe you've opened it up and you've seen a couple of things in there. And so you want to highlight that. Like, I want you to be able to share your excitement with other people. Make sure you drop this redeemhertime.com/planner link for them. And if you want to, let them know they can grab the planner experience through December 3rd as well. So that option to add the workshop will be live through December 3rd. And we'll be doing the workshop the next week. And I'm giving two options, a daytime option and an evening option, because I know December is busy and I want to make it like accessible. And guess what? If you want to show up to both of them, you can. Okay, I'm not going to say you were here yesterday, you can't come today, and be like, yeah, come again. That's great, right? Ask more questions, come do more work. So anyway, when you either buy the planner and add that at checkout, or if you do the video and you have to take oh, here's the other thing. Sorry. You got to do the video or the post and take a screenshot and post it in the community and put it under Planner Girls. Because otherwise, I'm depending on an algorithm to make sure that I see that you posted something, and I don't want to depend on that. It's okay. And plus, this way too, other community people get to see what you're sharing. So take a screenshot, put it in there. As soon as I see it, I will send you an email, and that will give you the days and times and all of that, so you have the information. Okay. Any questions about the Redeemer Time Planner experience? If you don't have a planner, grab it at checkout. If you already have one, screenshot a post or a video, and that will get you in. So hopefully that is helpful and explanatory. And it's like over $2,000 worth of value for $127. So who do you need to buy a gift for, right? Who do you know that like always is saying, where'd the time go? If only I had time. When I have time, right? Like, I think this is like probably a daily conversation for all of us, right? With people that we love, love and trust and like. So who could you gift this to as a Christmas present? I mean, talk about the gift that's going to keep on giving. I've been saying it's the only Black Friday deal out there with a guaranteed ROI. Yes, there are great sweaters on sale right now. Yes, there are, like other random things you could drop in your cart, but is it really going to matter 12 months from now that you bought that? Probably not. I'm really praying this is going to literally shift everything. And if you do the work and you plug into stuff like this, I pray it's going to. Okay, so enough of all that stuff. If you have questions, you can reach out or drop them in the chat and I will be happy to answer. But let's get into what we're doing tonight. So if you have a planner, you are welcome to pull that out and we are going to use that. If you don't, let me drop a link in here for you. It is the Planning with God sheet. And this is what we've been using for the last couple of years up until today. So it's very similar to what's in the planner. So if you have access to a printer, you can quick print it, great. If not, maybe pull it up on your computer or your tablet. And that could be a way to just kind of keep it in front of you. If not, grab a piece of paper and you can just do this on paper. Okay. So step number one, if you're in the planner, let me show you what this looks like. So before every month, you will see a spread that looks like this. Okay. So the first page says monthly planning. Or monthly brain dump. Sorry, I can't read script writing backwards. And then the next page says monthly planning. So we're going to start on the monthly brain dump. And you're welcome to do this page ahead of time for those of you who have the planner, because you're going to know this is coming. And again, we're going to get started tonight, but you might find that you don't get everything down on paper, but hopefully it's going to get stuff moving and get stuff, kind of not just stuck in your head or stuck on Post-it notes. Who's got Post-it notes all over or reminders all over and hoping that you're not going to lose one. Okay, I'm not alone. Good. Right? We want to make sure we get this in a place where we can see it. Okay. So we are going to do the monthly brain dump first. And this is really simple. We're going to get it out of here or all the random places it is and get it down in one place. Now, for the month of December, there very well could be a lot of stuff that is in your brain. Okay. So it's this month, maybe like, you might be like, oh, overload. I promise it probably won't be as much on the other months. Maybe, December is kind of typical like that. So I'm just going to set a timer it's 6:16 my time for 4 minutes. Okay. Over the next 4 minutes, I just want you to brain dump anything that comes to mind that you need to do or think about or prepare for or whatever in this next month ahead. Okay. We're going to try and just get it all out of here, get it in front of us. So that way we can do something with it. Okay. Does that make sense? So, all right, I'm going to start the timer. I need to figure out a way to be able to play music and not make it sound garbly on Zoom. I'll do some research on that before we come back. Once I've done it before, people are like, it just sounded all garbly. So I'm like, well, okay, no music. All right, I'll be quiet so you can get your 4 minutes in. And it could be helpful to, if you have things on a calendar already, to pull that out and look at it. How often are things on the calendar and we're not looking at it, and then all of a sudden it's a surprise? Well, it shouldn't be a surprise if it was on your calendar. Give me another minute or so. Here's what sometimes is helpful is to put things into categories. So if there are things you're noticing, oh, these things kind of go together. These are business related things. These are ministry or church related things. These are family related things, or events, versus tasks or things like that. So kind of train your brain to start thinking maybe in categories. And again, December can have a lot of random stuff, but that's helpful for me to kind of come in with that mindset. Hey, how we feeling looking at that list? Permission to not do everything that's on that list. Okay. Not everything on that list matters. And so the next step that we do is we go through the 4 Ds. Okay. So if you're using the planner, this is down the bottom of that page. And this is a really helpful strategy. Whenever you're feeling overloaded, you guys could literally, like, before Monday starts, sit down and do this for the next week, right? You could do this over just a specific project that you're working on, brain dump everything down, and then sort it with the 4 Ds. So the first D is delete. What is on this list that doesn't matter? Now, I think this is the hardest one for us as women. We think everything matters, right? And so it's like, I can't cross anything off the list, Lissa. But I think we really have to pay attention because sometimes we have to ask ourselves the question, why is this on the list? Is this on the list because this is an expectation that someone else has of me? Is this on the list because this is an obligation that I feel? My mom always, hand homemade her da 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 da. So now I think I have to homemake my da 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 da, like why, that doesn't mean, right? Like Christmas cards, that was a delete thing that I did years ago. And you know what? Yes, when I get some cards, I'm like, oh, there's this part of me that's like, maybe I should send Christmas cards again. But I'm like, nope. The people that I'm really connecting with, we're staying connected. They know what's going on in my life. And it was just one more thing, right? So I'm going to challenge you to see if you can find one thing that you can cross off. It really doesn't matter. And think about this. A year from now, will it really matter that you didn't do that thing? Okay. So that's the first challenge is to delete something. Okay. The second D is delegate. These are things that do matter, but guess what? You are not the only person on the planet who can do them. Do you know what is happening right now as I speak? My daughter is out in the kitchen making dinner. Guess what? I am not the only person in this house. And even if she wasn't here, I could have put my husband on something. He could come up with something, right? Like there are times when we need to delegate. Yes, there are things that matter, but we're not the only person on the planet who can do it. Now, is it sometimes better, easier, whatever, if we do it? We think so. But there's something to be said about like just taking things off our plate. So the second D is what is on here that you can delegate? What is on there? Maybe it's a family member, someone who lives in your home. Maybe it's a friend that you do some kind of a swap with. Maybe you hire somebody to come do this. I used to have a friend who would come and clean my house once a month. I actually ran into her. She cleans for the local post office, and she's now working full time for them. So she had to drop all of us for her cleaning clients. And the other day I was like looking at my bathroom, going, my parents are going to be in my bedroom, so of course I really want it extra clean. And I really wish Christina was coming. And sure enough, I go to the post office to deliver some planners, and there's Christina. And I'm like, Christina, I was just thinking about you today. I need to find somebody new to delegate once a month to come and do some deep cleaning for me. So yes, I when I would write those checks, I would tell her this is the best like $50 I spend all month, right? For you to come clean my house for 2.5 hours is like amazing. So don't be afraid if you need to pay someone to do something, whether it's in your business or in your home, because your time is valuable. Your time is worth something, and so is your sanity. Let's be honest, right? So I'm going to challenge you to be really looking at what things can I delegate? What things don't just have to be me? Okay. Number three is delay. These are things that matter and they are probably yours to do, but they don't necessarily matter right now. Like that closet that you need to clean out. Guess what? Does that really matter in December? Probably not. So even though it may have gone on your list and it may be something that you absolutely need to do, permission to not procrastinate, there's a difference. Okay. Procrastinate is I should be doing it now. I don't feel like it. I'm putting it off. That is very different. The closet's on your list. Good. My daughter and I think we're going to go to the consignment shop because I have like a box of clothes in there. And she and I usually go on a regular basis, but because she's so far away and she's not been home very often, my pile is piling up in there. So hopefully we're going to go and I can clean some of that out. But anyway, delay is I'm intentionally taking it from this space that it's living in my head and I am putting it at a later time with a timestamp on it when I will evaluate is now the time to do it. Okay, so maybe that closet goes from December and maybe it's a January thing. And you put a reminder on your phone or you put it in your planner. And so January 5th, you look at it and you say, okay, is now the time. Here's the thing that a friend of mine said one time I thought was brilliant. She's like, every time you delay it, put a star next to it. And if you have 3 stars next to it, you need to stop and ask yourself the question, does this really matter? If it was that easy for you to put off and delay that many times, does it even matter? Or is it just, I just need to do it and I've been putting it off and it just needs to get done? And maybe it's something you could delegate or something like that. So there are all kinds of reasons why we don't do things that we know we should or want to do. Okay. And then delight. And I think this is a fun one for the month of December. What are the things on my list that like bring life, that bring joy? Or that lead to joy. I mean, it's not fun to like fold your laundry, but isn't it joyful to go into your closet and find your clothes clean and ready for you when you want to put them on? So sometimes you got to get a little creative with the delight part, but make sure there are things on there and permission to add something right now that you're like, you know what? This is something I would love to do this month. Because maybe your list was all the like have tos, but not the get tos. So like right now, if you can't already find something on there that absolutely is going to be a delight for you in the next month, I want you to add something right now. Maybe it's that Hallmark movie that you love to watch. Or maybe it's like, I want to go ice skating, or I want to go to a light show, or I want to like whatever it is, like write it down now so that you can make time for it and then experience the joy that comes out of it, right? And bring other people with you. So that's the 4 Ds. And again, this process you can do anytime. This doesn't have to be the beginning of a month. It can be the beginning of a day, a week, a season, a year, a project, a time you're feeling overwhelmed. The key is get it out of here and get it down on here. Okay. So yeah, stop being in your brain. You wrote Hallmark movie. That's hilarious, right? Yeah. I even told my daughter, I'm like, tonight we're watching a movie because I've been working today so I can unplug. The rest of my family comes tomorrow. So trying to get some stuff done in order to do that. Okay. All right. Now, here's what usually happens when we have all this stuff in front of us, even if it's out of our head and on paper, there's a tendency to feel like, okay, I got to go, got stuff to do. Okay. So we're going to move to the next page for those of you who are in the planner. If you are using the sheet, then it's just going to be right here at the very top. Okay. And that is to take a Selah breath. A couple of weeks ago, I did a podcast episode on putting margin, intentional white space into your day, your week, your month, your season, your year. And Selah is a word that is used throughout the Psalms that means pause, like take in what you just read, like let it soak in. So before we go any further, we are going to take a Selah pause. And for 1 minute, we're just going to be quiet. Sometimes that's the only minute you've been quiet and stopped doing stuff or producing something or writing something all day long, right? Carolyn's like, yeah, been doing something all day long, right? So maybe you just are going to sit in the quiet and it isn't anything. But maybe in that quiet, God whispers a word or two or a phrase or something into your spirit. Jot that down because so often we're just so busy or we're listening to something all the time that we're not able to really hear his voice. Okay. So for just a minute, we're going to take a Selah pause and then we'll move on to the next part. My dog thought she wanted to be in here with me, but I think now she hears stuff out there and she's like, I want to go. I'm going to go outside. Yeah. Now. My office is her favorite place to hang out. And so she'll like come in here and like lay on the rug. And I come in and she looks at me like, do I have to leave? So if I'm recording the podcast, I make her leave. But if I'm doing something else, I'm like, you can stay. But I was like, you're going to be in here for an hour if you stay. So, okay. Our second P on here is position. And we actually did a podcast episode on this a couple of weeks ago as well, about having a focus word, or you could call it an anchor word. You could call it a word of the year, right? Like, what is that word that is going to bring you back? That really you want to be either the banner, like, so think about like when an army would go out into battle, right? If you're way in the back ranks, you couldn't see way up to the front people. That's why they would carry this like tall flag thing. And all you had to do was look for that and you knew you were going in the right direction, right? Or maybe think of this as like an anchor that when you're in the boat and the boat is starting to drift over here, it's that anchor that pulls you back. So, what is that word that you want to be your focus word? Maybe this is one that you've been using for all of 2024, and that's great. You can do that and continue and have the same word. Or maybe you're like, you know what? Heading into December, this is the word that I want to describe this next month. Okay, so I want you to write down that word and then scale of 1 to 10, no shame, no judgment, no stories. How aligned are you to that word right now? You might be really, like feeling like you're really good in that. And so this is just going to keep momentum going. You might feel like that feels really far away. It doesn't really matter, but I want you to pay attention to where you are. Okay. So write down your word and then write down scale of 1 to 10, how aligned you are to that word. And I encourage you, I actually, well, there have been two podcast episodes recently about this. I had Jenny Fulford on. I've got her Word of the Year journal in the other room. Super, super powerful. That she takes you through this whole process of choosing a word of the year with God and just some really cool ways to stay connected to it every month. So I'm excited to use it over this next year. And then I just had a gal this past week, and she was also talking about vision boards and kind of focusing in on one word. So those could be some great resources that you can go back to as well. So write down your word and then scale of 1 to 10. And then I want you to drop in the chat what word you are picking for this next month. It doesn't matter again if this is a brand new one for this month or if this is something that's been, going on for all of this year. But what is your word? Because I think it'd be really fun to hear what things you're wanting to anchor you to. Ooh, presence, intentional, patience. I love them. And what would be really, really good is to put this word somewhere where you're going to see it. Put it on your screensaver. Put a reminder that you never actually mark off that you did. So every time you open up your phone, it pops up there. Or set it on an alarm so that like it goes off, certain times of the day. And it just is all it does is flash one word and it brings you back to that place, right? Because we get so busy and distracted. We're like scattered all over the place and we need something to like draw us back in. And I'm going to encourage you. I'm going to be doing an episode upcoming about the word that God's laid in my heart for this next year, which I think really ties in really beautifully with what we talk about here about our time and our ROI. Um, Look for that in scripture. So a couple of years ago, God dropped the word with into my spirit around the Advent season. This whole idea of Emmanuel, meaning God with us. And for that next year, when I read through the Bible, I was specifically looking for the word with. And I was specifically looking for evidence of God's invitation to us saying, I am with you, right? And man's response or lack of response to God's invitation. And so I highlighted, like, if it was God's invitation, it was one color. If it was man saying yes, it was another color. If it was man saying no, it was another color. And it's so interesting when you read scripture looking for these common threads, like it's all over the place. Like literally every single day, I was finding evidence of this with God invitation. And it just really is a way to like bring that word to life. So the word that you picked may not be like directly in scripture, but maybe there's something that's close, or maybe it's connected to some kind of a theme. So I encourage, I'll be talking more about that in the podcast here a little bit later in December, but that would be a great way to keep it in front of you. Okay, our next P is patterns. Okay, now we all do things on the regular. Some of them are moving us in a direction we want to go, and some of them are not, right? Getting up and spending time with the Lord every morning is going to grow our faith walk. Having a bowl of ice cream every night is probably going to grow our waistline, okay? But we don't often notice what our patterns are until we stop to actually notice them. So this is a great trigger point for us to go, what are my patterns? Okay. What are actions that I will either start? Like I know this is a habit that I want to implement. And maybe it's just for this next month. Maybe it doesn't have to be forever. Maybe it's around like Advent. We just got a really great Advent devotional from our church yesterday. And so that could be a great habit, right? Or maybe it's something with, praying for people and then reaching out and sending them a voice message or a text or something like that over the next month. Or you could do that instead of Christmas cards, right? Whatever that is, what's something that you want to start? Maybe it's something around your health or around your finances or around a relationship, around your business. Is there something that you want to continue? You're already doing it, and you're like, this is a habit I want to I can keep doing because I know it's going to bear fruit if I don't give up. And then the last one is what's a habit maybe you want to stop? A habit that really isn't serving you, that really isn't taking you in the direction that you want to go. And you're like, okay, enough is enough. Okay, so you can come up with one for each category, start, continue, or stop, or you can just come up with one. Okay, so let me give you a couple of minutes to think about that and to kind of pay attention to what am I doing on a regular basis? Oftentimes, our habits are automatic things, like am I always reaching for my phone a certain time of day or when a certain thing happens? Am I always reaching for, something salty or sweet when a certain time of day or a certain thing happens? Am I always, going to another person first when a certain thing happens versus going to the Lord? So kind of notice what are like my knee-jerk reactions? What are the things I just randomly do? And who am I becoming because of that? And here's where we get to kind of like look at who do I want to become? Make sense? Okay, I'll give you a minute or two to think about that and get at least one down, right? Something you either want to stop, start, or continue. And that's going to grow you in the right direction. And if you have the sheet, they're called commence, continue, and cease. They're my three C's, but I didn't put the three C's in the planner because there was not enough space. So. And if you're willing, drop in the chat one that you are wanting to be held accountable to. Okay, because here's the thing. Number one, writing it down just increased your chances by 46% that that is going to happen. Number two, putting it out into the world to somebody else, right, increases your chances to 76%. And number three, inviting accountability increases your chances up to 95%. So if this is something that you really want to do, don't keep it to yourself. And guaranteed, you're probably not alone in whatever it is, because there are other people who either, want to start or continue or stop very similar things. So if anyone's willing, feel free to drop that in the chat. And this is where the community is how we stay connected, right, throughout the month. In fact, I don't know if you guys know this, but in the community, there is something called the Consistency Challenge Chat. And this is open to anyone in our community. what we do is the beginning of a month, we declare a habit that we want to be intentional about that month. And then every day that month that you do it, all you do is simply drop in the date and your every time you do it that month, your name goes in a drawing. Forgot the other thing I forgot to say is when you come into the chat and you declare your habit, you Venmo me $5. So that's your money in the pot, right? So then at the end of the month, then however many times you did your habit, your name goes in the drawing. I do one of those wheel of name things, and somebody gets the pot of whatever money was in there. So it's only $5, but it's been a really fun way for the women who participated. Have been doing this since I think June, to be consistent. So if you go into the community, go look for the Consistency Challenge chat. It's a chat, not like you're not going to see like a feed. It's just a chat, right? And you're welcome to join us now. It doesn't matter that it's the 25th of November, but you will see that come the 1st, I will reset that and ask people to declare their habit for the next month and to put their $5 in and things like that. So anyway, this is a way for us to be intentional as we are working on some of these habits because they matter, right? Our habits shape us. And so we want to pay attention to what things are getting our time, especially on the regular, because over time, right, that's who we're becoming. Okay, this next part is a little bit different between the planner and the paper. Okay, so if you have the paper, the next P that you see is priorities, and you see the 8 different areas of your life. Okay, the only reason why that is not in the planner on this page is because if you flip back a page, I'll flip back 2 pages, we will have just done this, right here. So, and I thought since it's right here on here, we're not going to put it on the monthly page because we will have just done it. So whether you have a planner and you're going back to the 2 pages ahead, or whether you're doing it on this, here's where now we look at the 8 areas for life: our faith walk, our family relationships, our friendships, our service, which includes work, business, ministry, could be paid or volunteer, could be caretaking if that's a full-time thing for you or a part-time thing for you. Our stewardship, that's going to be time and money, resources, our wellness, our passions, and our dwelling. Okay. And here's what we're going to do is just take a minute. Now, in the planner, I'm going to have you put one thing in each category each season. So that way you're really putting that intention and we're staying balanced because we're giving attention in every category. But for the monthly one, we're just going to keep it simple. I want you to look at this list of top 8, and I want you to pick your top 1 or 2. Which one is going to make the biggest difference in this next month? And then I want you to write down something that you will do. So whether it's a habit or a rhythm or a practice or a mindset or whatever it is in that area that is going to grow you towards who God is calling you to be in that area of your life. Does that make sense? So you're going to pick your top 1 or 2 areas, and you are welcome to go back and fill in the rest afterwards. Like I said, I mean, all 8 areas matter and we need to be paying attention. That's what actually next week's podcast is about, balance, making sure that one area doesn't get neglected or another area gets so much attention that we're like, unbalanced and falling over. So this is one of the ways that we do that. Okay. So pick your top 1 or 2 to start with, and then you can come back and fill in some more if you want to. But really, what would make the biggest difference, especially heading into this next month? What really needs your attention? And if you're willing and you want to put it out there for accountability, drop it in the chat. Say what the area is and say what it is that you're going to do in there. For example, in the area of stewardship, I know I need to revisit a budget. It's easy to like create one and then kind of get away from it or not really pay attention to it. So that's something that I know is in front of me that really needs to happen. Both, I just did that for my business. It was really good to look at and kind of make sure, clean things up. What things am I really investing in? Does it really matter? And so I do the same thing over in our family budget as well. So that's one thing that I put down. And again, if you're willing or wanting some accountability, then drop it in the chat. What is a priority that you are making that you are wanting to commit to in this next month? All of them matter, really, right? But sometimes other certain ones need certain ones. Writing 500 words a day. Wow, that's amazing, Carolyn. Yeah, and financial systems. Yes, whenever you can create a system around something so that you don't have to recreate the wheel every time, that is going to save you time. That's something I teach when I talk about CEO workflows is how can we create systems around things that we do so we're not having to do that. Yay, Sherry, getting some listings and recruits each week. Love it. Love it. Reviewing and adjusting business budget. Getting more active or visiting a church. Great. Yeah. Once you can drive again. Okay. Well, that will make a difference. Hopefully that is coming soon for you, Marion. And thankfully, in the meantime, there are virtual options at least for you to get filled, even if you can't be in person and things like that. So I pray that that's coming for you soon. Okay, so pay attention to those areas that need your attention. And here's what you're going to hear on this next week's podcast. Balance is not about even Steven. It's not like every area, all 8 areas get exactly the same amount of time and attention. That would actually be unbalanced. If I spent 3 hours a day with my friends and slept 3 hours a day, I'm probably not going to have a very balanced life, right? But it's about knowing what this area needs for it to stay upright and growing. Okay, and you're going to hear some illustrations that I use. I'm not gonna tell you guys all the good stuff. You'll have to come and listen to the podcast on Monday when it comes out there. So, okay, the next P, and we're kind of blazing through these because I talked a little bit longer in the beginning. The next P is plan. Okay, now let me give some explanation of this because some of you are new around here, and so you're like, exactly is this? Okay, if you have the planner, you are going to notice that each season we create what's called a 12-week plan. What's so funny is my husband literally the last 3 days has been like, I have to sit down and make a 12-week plan. I have to sit down and make a 12-week plan. I'm like, I got mine. I don't know what you're waiting for, but essentially what we do is we say, what needs my focus over the next 12 weeks? Sometimes it's one big project. So for example, my planner was like my 12-week plan for like almost all of 2024, right? And so each quarter I had a focus. And what I would do is I would break that down. What are all the things that are part of this? And I would prioritize them and order them. And then I would essentially backwards plan to say, what are my monthly targets? If I want to hit this in 12 weeks, where do I need to be at the end of week 4, week 8, week 12? And then I break it down even further to say, okay, if I want to be here by the end of month 1, what am I doing week 1, 2, 3, 4? So that's kind of the process. If you have the planner, that page is in there, and there's a whole video that goes along with it in the digital course that walks you through it. So what we do at this point is here's where I always say, check in with your plans, right? Now, we don't always go off the quarter, right? So I know like the calendar system says October, November, December is quarter 4. You can, right? But don't feel like you have to, So you could be like, you know what? I'm going to start a 12-week plan December 1st. Great. Who cares if it's bridging quarter 4 and quarter 1? It doesn't matter, right? So this is the time where we go, okay, if I already have a plan, I'm checking in to say, what is my focus this month? Do I need to make any adjustments? And make sure that we are really clear on where we're going. And then we pull this out each week as we do our weekly planning. If you're like, I don't even have a plan, then maybe you just want to think about what would I want to do over the next couple of weeks, right? Or over the next 12 weeks. Maybe you just look at the next 4 weeks and all you can think through is December. That's okay. You could do a plan for the holiday, right? What are the things that you want to do and how are you going to break it down such that you're not running around like a chicken with your head cut off, trying to get everything done and feel like you missed out on all the fun stuff because you're wrapping presents, on Christmas Eve and not getting to sleep, So we can do some planning ahead. So you can get creative. If you have a business, I always recommend you have a 12-week plan for something that you're working on to grow your business, or to build out a system or something that you're working towards. For example, I'm making some upgrades to the CEO program. So that's part of my 12-week plan that I'm working on right now. And we'll have a CEO event coming up in January. So that's a part of that as well. And so, there's some different things that relate like that. You're only allowed to have up to 2. So if you have a business, have one for your business and then just kind of one personal. If you don't have a business, maybe there's a ministry opportunity that you're working on, or maybe it's just a habit, or an area of your life that you're wanting to give some attention to. You could take that financial thing we talked about just a minute ago and break it down, right? How am I going to break this down so I don't have to do it all at once? It's really easy to feel overwhelmed when it's a big project, but it's really easy when it's broken down. All you're like, this is the only thing I have to work on this week is this. I can do that. I don't have to worry about week 10 when I'm on week 2, right? Does that make sense? So that's me kind of giving a lot of background to it because I don't know if all of you have a 12-week plan right now. So if you don't have a 12-week plan, what would you want to make a 12-week plan around? Maybe that's the first thing you do right now tonight. If you have a 12-week plan already, I've got mine, except it happens to be in my journal out where I was just sitting. Check in with it, right? What is supposed to be happening over this next month? And what do you need to do in order to make that happen? Okay. Now there's so much more coaching that goes behind that, which is why I highly recommend check out the CEO Impact Program. It's going to be the new name of the program, just so you know, because we work on how to build them out, how to implement them, how to adjust them as life happens and you thought something was going to happen and it didn't, or vice versa. So there's a lot behind it, but at least the concept hopefully is going to be helpful for you. So either write down what you want it to be about, or um, or check in with the one that you already have, and permission to just make it 4 weeks and then start a fresh 12-week one in the new year if that would be helpful for you. Because sometimes around this time of year, we can't always think, we can't think so far out, right? So I'll give you a minute to kind of think on that and at least jot something down so you've got something to come back to that's going to trigger that. Okay, our next P, I'm going to keep us moving just for sake of time, is preview. So here's where we're going to look ahead. Okay, what do I need to plan or prepare for? For example, I have a women's ministry event coming up on December 5th. So I want to make sure that it's not the morning of December 5th and I'm like, oh no, I have to bring an appetizer or dessert. I totally forgot about it. Actually, today I got a text from our small group saying that we are in charge of putting together a hot chocolate bar for the youth group. I'm like, okay, I signed up to bring the hot chocolate packets. I can do that. But I don't have time to think about it now. So guess what I did? I set a reminder on my phone for when I'm making my grocery list next week to add that on there. Okay. So here's where I want you to start like looking ahead. If it is your mother-in-law's birthday on December 2nd, guess what? That should not be a surprise when you turn the calendar on December. Like there are certain things that happen every year. So, okay, what am I doing to plan and prepare for that? And or maybe there are things that are specifically happening this month. What's coming up? Maybe it's a trip. Maybe it's hosting. Maybe it's an event. Maybe it's a project you're working on for business. I'll give you a few minutes to kind of look ahead and start thinking about what do I need to start planning for? Maybe it's even something into January. Right now, I'm doing preparation for January because I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks over the end of the year, and I need to have things rolling for when I get back. So maybe there's some of that going on, but I'll give you a few minutes to kind of look ahead. What do you need to plan and prepare for that's coming up? And sometimes things come up that we didn't know were coming. So permission to like, give yourself grace if things happen that you didn't know. But whatever we can think ahead about, it's always helpful to have that plan before it comes versus last minute. And again, this could be personal stuff or it could be business stuff. So if you're looking on the planning with God sheet, I broke it down into personal and business. So maybe if you're using the planner, you want to kind of think about those two different categories as to what that looks like. That could be helpful. Okay, before we do the last two P's, we're actually going to turn the page. So if you have a planner, turn the page because you are going to find our first monthly spread. Now, for those who don't have a planner, just so you know, I intentionally made this undated so you could pick this up at any time and not feel like I have to wait till the beginning of a year or wait till, a certain time or whatever to be able to do this, or wow, I just missed like half the year and here I am in the second half. So if you're doing this on here, great. If you're finishing up, a planner that you already have, like the current one that I have goes through December because it was dated. So I'm finishing using this since I'd already started all my planning in here. And then this will start officially in January. So it doesn't matter. But on this planner page, this monthly spread, I've got a checklist for you. So if you don't have the planner, I'm going to read these off to you. And here's where I highly recommend having a monthly spread. So if you don't have the Redeem Her Time planner yet, grab it and grab the workshop. You can go on, I think it's called blankcalendarpages.com and print out a monthly spread because there's something about being able to see the whole month at a time. I don't know about you, but when you just scroll on your phone, you can't really see and feel how things flow. And it's like one long to-do list. Like it's really frustrating and there isn't really any, like you can't get a sense of how much time is there between things. And you can't really like figure out where things are piling up and things like that until it happens. So whether hopefully you have the planner, if not, blankcalendarpages.com, print out a December calendar and at least you can see it, okay? But the first thing that's on the checklist is your weekly Sabbath and Selah pauses. Yes, I am telling you to push pause first before you put anything else on here. And in that episode I did a few weeks ago, I talked specifically about Sabbath and I talked specifically about Selah and why we need those things. And this is not a legalistic thing like, that thou shalt, honors the Sabbath and keep it holy. I do think there's a reason why God gave that to them, and that there's a whole lot of growth and fruit and trust that happens when I run my life 24/6 and not 24/7 and trust God. And here's what I found. I used to think Sunday was my day to catch up and prep for the week or whatever, but now that I've like guarded that time and that's not what it's for, it's amazing. I get more done in the other 6 days than when I tried to make it all happen in 7 days. Like God's math is, doesn't make sense, but it always turns out. So anyway, so if you have the planner, you also should have, hang on, let me show you. Some stickers, yes, right. So these are great because guess what? When you put a Sabbath sticker across that box, you can't write anything else in there. So you might want to save these for the weekly spread, or maybe you want to put them on the monthly spread. You decide. There are also a Selah pauses on here too. So what I want you to do first is go through and say, when am I either going to honor the Sabbath and or when am I going to block out some Selah time, right? You may be looking ahead and know I'm going to need some downtime because this next week is going to be a lot of family and a lot of, maybe drama and things like that. And so maybe you want to block some time before, or maybe you want to block some time after, or maybe you want to block some time in the middle, of a whole bunch of stuff happening. Okay, so I'm going to give you a minute to think about where do I want to put some pauses in? Because those pauses are going to give you the opportunity to, number one, catch your breath. Number two, pay attention to, what's going on. And number three, to hear God's voice, which are always important things, right?
Can
Do
you
I
say that
recommend?
again? Can you say that again about the Selah versus Sabbath pauses? Are
Yeah.
they different?
Well, not, I mean, you could call a Sabbath Selah, right? But a Sabbath I look at as like whether you're doing a whole day or like a part of a day, that's a time that we're set aside to worship and to rest and to reconnect with ourselves, with the Lord, with those we love. A Selah can just be a pause. So maybe it's an afternoon, maybe it's an evening, maybe it's a weekend, maybe it's just another day that you're just like, I know I'm going to need some intentional pause time in here. I'm going to plan that time in first. Because here's the thing, if you don't plan time for it, the time for it will not just magically show up, right? And we don't think we have time for it is exactly when we need it, right? So it's just paying attention to what does the pace look like, especially for people who are more like introverted or really need some downtime, especially if you've been out and about and with people and things like that. You might want to make sure you've got some Selah time that's kind of built in there. And again, don't feel like you have to make all these decisions immediately right now. But I want you starting to think about this, right? And starting to go, okay, where am I going to intentionally put some of this time in? Do I recommend a Sunday for the first day of a 12-week plan? That's up to you. I don't usually do any of my 12-week stuff on a Sunday, just because that's my Sabbath. And so I'm not, working on things and stuff like that. So I don't know, Sherry, exactly if you have any more specifics around that question, what you were asking for there. I'd be happy to answer that.
No, that pretty much answers it because the first day of it can be my Sabbath day.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Right, which is exactly how it is set up. Did you know the first day on the job for Adam and Eve was Sabbath? It wasn't what they earned at the end of working 6 days. It was day one, right? And I think that's intentionally the way that God designed it is let me fill you up first, not so that then I can go run out and pour out the rest of 6 days by myself, but because he knows that we need that reconnect time before we go into a week versus feeling like I have to earn it, right? Yeah, yeah. And the 12-week plan is really broken down monthly and weekly. And then you decide, like, when you look at your weekly, things that you need to do, what days of that week you're going to work on those things. So you can decide if you want to make that happen on a Sunday or not. Okay, the second thing that goes in your monthly calendar is your personal events and commitments. Okay, what are the things that are coming up for life? And there might be more of them this month than usual that I need to make sure on this calendar. For example, I just wrote down my women's ministry thing because it was in the bulletin. I lead women's ministry, but it wasn't on my calendar yet. I was like, I better make that sure the thing gets down there so I don't forget it. Right? Maybe there's a holiday party coming up. Maybe there's a concert that you're wanting to go to. Maybe there's a date night you're doing. Maybe there's, kids are coming for the holidays or grandkids, or there's a time that you want to go and serve at a local food pantry or nursing home or things like that. So right now, maybe it's getting your nails done or getting your hair done. I mean, those are things too, right? That often need to go on here. So give you a minute to kind of think ahead. Do I have everything in front of me that I've already committed time to or that I want to commit time to? Okay, because otherwise something else is going to fill that time, right? That's what happens. There's never been a minute of your life that didn't have something in it. Either you choose or someone or something else chooses for you. I guess I had to also give a caveat. If you're using the planner, you will have to put the dates in. So the first is on the first Sunday. It makes it kind of nice for this month. It makes it really easy to quick write those dates in there as well. And hopefully you've put your stickers on your tabs. If not, go ahead and do that once you're deciding where you're starting. Sometimes it's helpful. I did this in the past and I haven't been doing it as much, but I may go back to it. Is like doing things that are personal in one color and then like business or work related things in another color, just so you can kind of visibly see where those things are. Because right now I just set everything in pencil and I'm like, it all kind of looks the same. I think I need to grab out my highlighters or colored pencils or things like that. So and then the next thing on the checklist are work/business events and commitments. Do you have meetings coming up? Are you in a coaching program? If you're in the CEOs, we meet on Mondays and Thursdays. Are you, meeting with a networking group? Is there a Christmas, event that you're going to for the work that you do, or the ministry that you're a part of, or things like that? Are there project deadlines? That you're things that you're wanting to have done. Sometimes it's a deadline that's, somebody else gives you, and sometimes it's, maybe something that you're giving yourself so that you can have that thing done and be able to unplug or move on to the next thing. So take a minute to look at, okay, what are the things I've already committed time to when it comes to my work or business that I do or the ministry that I have, and make sure those things are on your calendar. And then after that, we just have one thing left, and then we're going to pray over our month together. One of the things I teach my CEOs is to do some like theme days or block days. So for example, I have certain days of the week where I don't take appointments because I'm working on what I call CEO tasks, whether it's doing the podcast or doing some back end, type of things or some bigger picture focus type things. So that may be something to start thinking about if you're not doing that already, is just like so that I'm not like feeling like I'm running. So for example, my husband always makes fun of me, but like I literally go to town like maybe twice a week for church and to pick up groceries. And I try to get all my errands done when I go to town for picking up groceries and stuff like that. So I'm not running back and forth all week long because every time I'm in and out of town, in and out of the car, it's taking up time and stuff like that. Now I have an empty nest. So I don't have kids that I'm shuttling places and things like that. So I can do that now. But yeah, kind of thinking about like, how do I want the flow of my week to look like? And that's something that we'll start working on in that workshop is what does my ideal week look like? How do I kind of block out, those things that are on a reoccurring basis? But what we're looking at right now are kind of maybe those specific things to this month, those commitments that you have. And then the last one on this checklist is your monthly milestone and your weekly targets. So that's related to your 12-week plan. So what is it that I'm wanting to accomplish by what date this week? And so what I find is really helpful is to be able to like, maybe it's Friday when you're going to check in with each of those things. And so make sure that gets on there so that way you're seeing it every time you're looking at this monthly spread and it's not like out of sight, out of mind, you get to Friday or you get to end of the month and you're like, oh, shoot, I didn't even look at that all month, right? So if it's on here, then yeah, go ahead, Marion. We're going to be finishing up here in just a minute. Then if it's on here, then it's going to trigger, oh, I need to be paying attention to this. Okay. So that's that last one is just what are the monthly milestones that I'm hitting this month from our 12-week plan and what are the weekly targets? Ah, okay. Tonight was kind of a whirlwind because I did a lot more explaining in between and we had some extra things that were coming up on the front end. But that's why the last P, if you go back to the monthly planning page, is to pray. And we actually kind of did, for those of you who are coming back here, we did the pace a little bit already, committing to slowing down. Where will I build in margin or white space? That's some of that is the Selah and the Sabbaths. But maybe you want to be intentional about something that you're going to do specifically this month. Maybe, you love to just like sit by the Christmas tree with the lights on and a little bit of music, in the evenings and just kind of quiet your body, mind, spirit. Maybe it's some time in the morning that you want to commit to maybe it's getting to bed at a certain time so that way you can get the sleep you need. So that way you have the energy you need for the day. So feel free to underpace, write down something you're committing to that's going to be refilling, that's going to be giving some white space for you, body, mind, and spirit. And then the last P, I always love praying Ephesians 3:20 to 21, right? Now to him who is able to do far more abundantly beyond all we could ask or imagine, to him be the glory forever and ever. And just always makes me think of James, where he talks about like making plans, right? And we don't just make plans and say, okay, God, I want your rubber stamp, and now I'm off to my month. It's the if the Lord wills, right? We're always holding this loosely, but we're also expectant about what God could do, right? And that when He works, it's always exceedingly abundantly beyond we could ask or imagine. And so let me pray that over us. And then we'll stay on for a couple of minutes if any of you are on live and have a question over something we've started working on tonight. And then I'll let you get off to your rest of your week and what it holds for you, okay? Lord, we just thank you for this time. Thank you for the gift of time. Thank you for the 44,000 and some odd minutes that are in front of us in the month of December. And God, right now, before it even starts, before we get caught up in the hustle and the bustle, we just want to pause. And number one, we want to accept this time as a gift from you and see our roles not as managers of it, but as stewards of it, as those who have been entrusted with something to build something bigger than us, and that is your kingdom. And God, we spent time tonight looking ahead, thinking about the things that we think matter, and yet we hold our hands and our plans open and loosely because we ultimately want what you want for us. And so we give you permission to erase things, to redirect things, to rearrange things, or even to confirm things that we've worked on tonight. And I just pray that over these next few days, as we not only head into Thanksgiving, but as we head into a new month, that your spirit would speak to us about our time and about where you're calling us to focus in the month ahead of us. And God, we are expectant and we can't wait to see what you do when we are faithful of walking with you. So thank you for this time tonight. Thank you for each woman who was able to be with us tonight and for those watching the replay. And pray that you'll bring us all back together again next month. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. Any questions anyone has while we're on? I can smell dinner.
Amen. No,
Ready?
none
Yeah.
for me. I'm going to head to dinner.
Good.
Thank you so much, Lisa.
Yeah, glad you're here.
Lisa, I actually have a question. You had mentioned that you have weekly verses that are, I think, in the community. Where do I find those that I can, and then I can add that to the planner?
Yeah, yeah. So if those just kind of so those who know what we're talking about on the weekly spread, I intentionally left the verse blank so you can write in a verse that you're meditating on, or you really want to come back to. So in the CEO program is where we have a verse of the week, and so every week on Monday we kind of dive into a little bit more behind what that means. So Christy, it's not just in the general community. That is going to be inside the CEO program. So if you go into, there are two places you can find it. You should have the link to the Google Drive, which has all the CEO PDFs in one place. If you're not seeing that, it should have come like in their welcome email and things like that. If you're not seeing it, message me and I will grab the Drive link and send it to you directly. So that's one place you could look. The other place you could look is in the Thrive Cart modules. The biblical belief mindset prompts are under the bonuses. So if you go in there, you can see they're all there. I always share them in the Monday CEO text that comes out. So worst case scenario, you can grab them from the text that I send out. And then they also get posted on Tuesdays inside the CEO Inner Circle. So is that helpful? That's kind of a couple different places to look. Either that PDF Google Drive link or in the ThriveCart modules under bonuses, look for the biblical belief mindset prompts.
Awesome. Yes, thank you so much. I
And if
appreciate
you
it.
don't find it, please ask again. Be like, Lisa, I don't see this, and I will go do a quick little screen video and show you exactly how to find it.
Okay, awesome. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Glad you joined us. Have a great week and enjoy your Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Same to you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.